Welcome back to Forum Daily News. I'm Wyatt Sharpe, and this is your U.S. election tracker update. Well, certainly there is a lot of conversation about the Democrats who have decided to come out and publicly support Vice President Kamala Harris. But interestingly enough, some are refusing to do so. One example is Senator Joe Manchin, who is a Democrat. Some people describe him as an independent, but he has come out and said that over a filibustering issue, he will not be endorsing the vice president. And joining us now to discuss exactly that is independent journalist Jackson Gosnell. Jackson, how much of a problem are Democrats like Joe Manchin going to be for the Harris campaign?
Well, I don't know that he's going to be hugely problematic. I guess you could compare Joe Manchin to Liz Cheney on the Republican side. It's not shocking that he's not endorsed Kamala Harris. Similarly, nobody is surprised that Liz Cheney is not voting for Donald Trump. You always have these people who belong to a particular party who are not going to vote that way. And so I would also just point out to you that Joe Manchin has a history of kind of playing more to the Republican or conservative side of the Democrat Party. Not to say that he's a full-fledged, MAGA Republican, as so many would call themselves in Congress, but he has been known to have a little bit of a Republican tilt for a Democrat. And so this is not shocking. And I think it comes down to the same situation with the likes of Liz Cheney, who say they're not voting for Donald Trump. And so I don't think it's shocking. I don't think this changes things too much.
And just in terms of a policy standpoint, because you mentioned that he generally tends to lean a little bit more on the Republican side, is that more of a morals character type thing or actually more of a policy disagreement type of an issue?
I think it's more so of a policy disagreement. He always says that he listens to his constituents. He's from West Virginia, a fairly Republican state. And so I think you see him trying to cater to their needs, but he was elected as a Democrat. And I think a lot of the arguments that people have been making for years is that the Democrat Party has changed. They're not necessarily the same that they were. In your introduction, though, you said that he was a Democrat. He's actually an independent. He's changed his party. And so I think that's more reflective of what he represents because he doesn't just check the box on all the Democratic policies. Again, he says he listens to his constituents and then responds accordingly.
And do you think that the Trump campaign should, or are they making a play for some of these, you could call them politically homeless Democrats or now independents, as you and I have both mentioned?
Well, I know that we've seen both sides embrace that. We've certainly seen the Democrat Party embrace the idea that Liz Cheney is not voting for Donald Trump, nor is Dick Cheney. And so I think if you have a former Democrat who is not throwing their support behind a Democratic nominee, certainly the Republican Party is going to accept that. They're going to embrace it. And they're going to, shout it from the rooftops. Whether or not it actually makes a difference, I don't think it does.
And obviously, there was the switch in nominees going from President Biden now to Vice President Harris. Joe Manchin has been part of that kind of politically homeless faction of the Democrat Party, or now independent, as you and I have both mentioned, for the past little while now. Is there perhaps a stronger level of that feeling now with Kamala Harris as the nominee than there was when Joe Biden was the nominee?
I think there's a lot of resistance to Kamala Harris, and that is attributed to her flip-flops on a lot of policy positions, including fracking, the border, as well as guns. Interestingly, she shared that she was a gun owner, and then she said that if you break into her home, that you're going to get shot. And I think a lot of people laughed both of those things off because Kamala Harris has typically been known as a progressive, pretty far left Democrat, and so those things were pretty surprising to a lot of people that she's flip-flopped, including fracking among others. There's a big giant list, and Republicans can be to blame for things like that as well, such as Trump's evolving shift on the abortion topic. But certainly it's more prevalent with Kamala Harris, and I think that's why we're seeing some resistance to supporting her campaign.
Well, hold on. Is it really fair to make that argument? I mean, you mentioned something like fracking. She has been the vice president for the past 4 years. She didn't take action on any of the things that you or that Republicans are claiming here. Is that not dishonest messaging coming from the Trump campaign?
I don't know that it's dishonest. I mean, she was the second person in line. Obviously, Joe Biden is the president, but also there's this argument that he's been declining and she's not been letting people know. So is she or is she not running things? We don't really know, but we do know that her comments have changed in recent history. So Maybe it's not entirely fair of a criticism from the Trump campaign, but it's certainly one that they're raising. And in talking to voters, it resonates with them. I mean, there's clips of her saying things and then it totally flip-flopping. Whereas with Trump on the abortion thing, that one I think is a little bit easier for people to digest than a litany of these policy position flip-flops, especially given that for a long while there were no policy positions on our website.